Hi everyone. In today's episode, we are honored to be joined by Adil Hussain.
You've found your way home.
In the social media frenzy world, they also cast people looking at the number of followers they have, not necessarily the talent or capabilities that you have.
What is the difference between theatre and cinema in terms of acting abilities?
I would not like to manifest anything which is not meant for me, because I know the power of manifestation, and be aware what you wish for.
I feel it was a calling for you at a very young stage and you followed that without doubting it. You're like, I have to be an actor.
I do not look at the finance part of it quite often. If the story makes complete sense to me and I want to be part of it.
You've acted in many different languages, movies. How do you emotionally enter languages that you didn't grow up with?
I'm very happy to have spoken to you. I would say that keep doing what you're doing.
Hi everyone, I'm Mohsinaa Ahmad. Welcome to Self-Discovery Podcast. In today's episode, we are honored to be joined by one of the most revered and multidimensional actors of our time, Adil Hussain. With a career spanning over 30 years, Adil has carved a space uniquely his own, effortlessly moving across Bollywood, regional cinema, global indie films, and international blockbusters. A graduate of the prestigious NSD and Drama Studio London, his journey is a masterclass in dedication, depth, and artistic discipline. You have seen him in the global sensation Life of Pi, where he played Pi's father with unforgettable grace.
Believing in everything at the same time is the same as not believing in anything at all.
And in English Vinglish, alongside Sridevi, in a role that struck a chord with millions.
Best laddus you will ever eat.
I totally agree.
And my wife, she was born to make laddus.
His nuanced performances in films like Lutera, Mukti Bhavan, Kabir Singh, The Reluctant Fundamentalist, and Love Sonia reveal the astonishing range and emotional intelligence he brings to every frame. Adil's international work, including Star Trek Discovery, India Sweets and Spices, and the award-winning What Will People Say, has earned him global acclaim, including Amanda Award for Best Actor in Norway and a National Filmfare Award Special Jury in India, amongst other awards. He's a man of theatre, a believer in mindful living, an artist who chooses roles with conscience over convenience. Today, we dive into the mind and spirit of a performer who sees acting not as fame but as a sacred responsibility. Welcome, Adil, to my show Self-Discovery Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm very well. Thank you very much, Mohsinaa. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
So, Adil, please tell me, do you remember a moment like when did you think of acting? Because you come from a small place and then you have this big dreams. You have pursued them through education as well as you have honed your technical abilities, and then you have shown it on screen, the honesty in the acting. How did this thought begin?
Long journey and far away, actually, because I'm pretty far away in terms of my time span, the time that I have landed on this earth quite a few decades ago. I think if I remember to some extent correctly, that I used to watch these stand-up comedians on the stage. They used to perform in front of our homes almost for a few years in my hometown, Gwalpara, during Bihu celebration, during the Indian New Year, which we celebrate in Assam as well. So they used to perform mimicry, and I got very, very fascinated by their ability to impersonate actors who we used to watch on silver screen in those days. And I used to come back home and I would perform and imitating the imitators in front of my neighborhood friends, and they would be delighted to see my version of the imitators. And that's how I sort of got interested. I would say I was fascinated and I became engrossed with the idea of like, oh my God, this is amazing when I am being able to imitate the voice, the attitude, the gestures, the mode and the mood of other people. And then so happened that one of my teachers, Beena Pani Sharma, who was my mathematics teacher in the kindergarten, in 1971 cast me in a play during the annual school celebration. And I performed this English language skit called Cap Maker and the Sailor. And I was absolutely stunned by the experience of it. Like half an hour felt like 5 minutes. And I came down from the stage and I asked my teacher that, was it already half an hour? She said, yes, half an hour. I said, oh my God, it felt like 5 minutes. And so apart from the fact that from that day onward, I became very popular in amongst my classmates and the other school teachers that, oh, okay, this guy is good in performing. So, and since that year, I had been doing theater or school theater rather every year and continued till I was in high school. And then at the age of probably 14, I think, when I was in class 8, I thought this is what I would love to do all my life. And I pursued it. Probably the dream was in the subconscious, watching Amitabh Bachchan, Dharmender, Shatrughan Sinha, and all these Indian actors, dancing around the trees and also delivering all these dramatic, melodramatic lines. And And I thought that, yeah, this is fun. This is a lot of fun. And I'd like to probably keep doing this. That could be in my subconscious, but the process of acting, because I can say it probably pretty convincingly that the process itself was very rewarding. What came after it, like the applause and the name and the cheer and the no money, of course, in theater.
You enjoyed it too much.
I enjoyed the whole process of rehearsals and, getting to know each other, understanding the text and, all that, which sort of made complete sense to me. And it gave me also inroads to who I am, what I really feel like, understanding characters, the situation, the human complexities, all that without knowing all these. Now I can articulate it as you speak to me with my gray hair. I can now articulate it a little bit. That sort of made complete sense to me, and I thought I will continue. And as you probably would know that, Assam and the Northeast is far away from Bombay, from any film industry for that matter. And there is a very, very small film industry in Assam. So nobody would dream probably to go to Bombay at that time from that part of the country to the opposite side of the country. And that would seem to any parents, for that matter, is a far-fetched dream.
Who supported you?
My mom passively supported me. My dad was totally not happy about the fact, but not because that he didn't like art. I think he was a very, very ferocious reader of literature. He enjoyed music. He was a very, very learned and educated man. But he was worried about my financial security in future. So he was not happy about it at all. But anyway, so I pursued it regardless and continued to participate in theater. And then I came to study to do my undergrad in Guwahati. And there I met few people who introduced me to the larger picture of the world of acting, including the great names like Stanislavski, Jerzy Grotowski, who were the father of modern theater and modern acting. Stanislavski especially, the first person on the planet in the history of acting who articulated how acting could be learned. So he created a system called Stanislavski system, which is followed by most of the actors in the world now. And also came to know about National School of Drama from one of the actors, Tapan Das. And so I got obsessed by that I must go to this place. And luckily I got admission. It was very difficult because in those days they used to only take 20 students from across the country and each student would get scholarships. So I didn't have to pay. If it wasn't for free, I don't think I would be sitting here and chatting with you because my dad wouldn't have been able to afford it. So thank God the institution still does take, 30 students and they all get scholarships to study. So that's how it started. And from there onward, I went on to, as you have mentioned in your introduction, I got a scholarship again to study acting in the UK. And then the dream of acting in cinema sort of left me, and I got completely absorbed by theater because of the degree and intensity of involvement that theater demanded from me, the kind of theater that I was introduced to by my teachers at the National School of Drama. And then film happened, and that's another story.
Adil, I just want to tell you here, I have huge respect because, initially when I came to know that you are from Assam, I couldn't believe it because Assam has a dialect.
Yes.
And when
Yes.
you speak Hindi and English, and it comes across, okay?
Yeah.
But when you would speak, nobody could make out, where it is from. Okay, it was so beautifully delivered. Everything was so immaculate, I would say. It is really beautiful. So you have done a lot of theater and you're still doing it. So what is the difference between theater and cinema in terms of acting abilities? Does one need more energy and honesty than the other?
Yes, there are quite a few differences, but not really fundamental way. It's almost like, if I can give you a metaphor, would be to be able to fathom the equation between live audience sitting there in the theater hall and to be able to be sensitive towards a camera which can come, this close almost to the eyes. You know what I mean? So when you perform on the stage, audience is far away. When I say far away, even the front row is at least 6 to 7 meters away. The last row could be maybe, say, 40 meters away. I'm talking about a larger hall. So when you perform on the stage, there is responsibility from the perspective of an actor to be able to reach out to the last audience row. And the intensity of your feelings and emotions and words that you speak must not dissipate because of the distance from the actor. That is one aspect of the difference, but in terms of the training of an actor, this particular aspect is going to create a lot of aspects to be learned by the actor in order for you to be larger than life, yet should not be perceived as you're overacting. Yeah, so that's a very delicate balance that one has to maintain. Now, in front of the camera, if you feel truly what you are supposed to feel in consultation with yourself as an actor, as a contributor, as an interpreter of the role, and also in consultation with the director, the camera captures it. Most often, you don't need to express it outward. The camera comes close and will capture it. In terms of the last part of the question that you asked me, I would call it the truthfulness of it. Now, that is a very, even more fundamental for any actor to be considered a good actor or a great actor or a bad actor. You know what I mean? Because you can get away with untruth, half-truth, unconvincing acting or feeling what you are supposed to feel, and audience could be deceived. But you will be considered as an okay actor. You will tolerate that. But you would not go back home and say, or you will not come out seeing a stage performance. You will not come out and say, oh my God, what an actor. So the great actors on the planet are the carriers and the embodiments of truth, which is of very high degree.
Who do you
Great actor.
consider a great actor in
There,
the recent
there are
times?
so many of them. On the stage, I would say in Europe, I have seen the great acting is Thomas Richard, Mario Biagini. They are of a different kind of theater actors. There are theater actors in the UK. Those are very good actors. I wouldn't say they're great actors from my perspective. On screen, I would consider, say, there are so many of them right from in the beginning of acting, Japanese actors, French actors. In terms of the famous names, I would say Anthony Hopkins, Ben Kingsley, Daniel Day-Lewis, and Indian actors, I would say Balraj Sahni. So there are amazing actors. I will consider them great actors. And there are so many others. Yeah.
How do you choose a story? Like, I know that, it is not just on the basis of the star cast, of course, with you. It is basis of so much more depth, or, something that is really, really, I would say, impactful or powerful, that you choose your parts. So can you tell me on what basis, what is your story thought process whenever you read a story? What is the thought process that you go through?
Mostly it is first the theme, what it is talking about. And the theme could be a theme finds a plot, gender violence, say.
Mhm.
That's the theme. It can be told through many stories. In different parts of the world would be different, right? And then the director, writer, or writer would follow a specific plot which is familiar to the writer herself or himself. And then I would see whether it is very complex or very ordinarily put. If it is complex, it makes more sense because we are all complex beings, It's not binary, it's not simplistic. Also, the second part of it, I try to see, is it trying to villainize a particular character? Or the person who is so-called the bad guy, his or her nuances are also taken care of. Does the audience feel empathy even for the bad guy, so-called bad guy?
Mhm.
And the complexities in terms of the interpersonal relationships are not binary. It
Mhm.
is more nuanced, it is more subtle, it's
Deeper.
more fleshed out, relevant to the contemporary time. Even though we are speaking of a story which is placed like 300 years ago, why are you making it now? Why do you have to tell this story at this time, in this situation? Where the world is, whatever the world is going through for current. So all these things matter. And of course, after that, one would see that the script could be good, but I would also look at the director's ability. How do I find out about the director's ability if it is a first-time director? And quite often I have worked with first-time directors. So if he or she has made some short films, as he or she has, sort of done internship as assistant directors or writers, or is she a graduate from a film school? So I must know if the director is capable to use the craft of storytelling through theater or films with some kind of credibility, and that I would see, and then I do it. Generally I do not look at the finance part of it quite often. If the story makes complete sense to me and I want to be part of it, which I did recently, a film with two-member crew only. In the UK, 3 months back, I shot a film. Director was the DOP, he is the producer, and his life partner was the makeup person come sound recordist. And the director's daughter played my daughter. It's a two-member crew. And sometimes some other actors would come by themselves, taking a train so I would look at the money when there is money with the producers.
Right.
And I would have to also earn some money to pay my bills.
Mhm.
So that part is what another aspect of it. And if the story I see is makes sense, but not an amazing artistic depiction of life, but somehow through mainstream approach.
So if the story is powerful, you can let go of the money, but
Of
otherwise,
course,
yes,
of course.
money is important. It's an energy and it needs to be,
Correct.
we all need to
Absolutely.
have it. That's very.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
Adil, tell me one thing. You have worked in Life of Pi, and the acting that you have done there is so beautiful. The acting of the father and the lines, the delivery of the lines that you have done, it is quite impactful. It's like life lessons that you were actually going ahead and telling Pi. So, post that, you did English Vinglish, which was a popular cinema, and it made you very popular amongst each and everyone. So, when do we see you more in the popular cinema? Because this is where we are missing you. And we want to look at your acting skills, your acting abilities, your characters that you play. This is something that we really miss in Bollywood. So, what is stopping you from doing so?
Nobody. It's just that people have to want me to act in their films.
We want to, let me tell you
Of
this.
course, I mean,
Yes.
you, one of the, well-wishers who relishes the work that I do, but people, in a sense, those who are making films. The trend changes quite often, So I also feel that the kind of films which are being made, which are popular, quite often I feel it's not my cup of tea. I do not see myself in them. Even some of them would choose to look out for me, but they are very unwilling to pay the price that I would want to be in those popular films, because it has to make some sense to me. Like, either you quench my thirst as a lover of the art of acting, or you compensate that with financial resources. Either of the two. Or if both come together, that's, nothing like it, which is rarely the case in today's world. But it has happened. Like, there's the film that I did called The Storyteller, which is on Geo platform, Geo Hotstar, which has paid me the highest amount of money, and yet being an art house film. So they can come together, but not often. I wish that was the case. I don't know, Mohsinaa, when I will be sought out by producer directors who would want me. And these days, also because in the social media frenzy world, they also cast people looking at their followers, the number of followers they have, not necessarily the merit or the talent or the capabilities that you have. But I'm okay with that, because I feel that I would be in those films where I needed to be, or where I am meant to be, rather than I want to be. Yeah, I want to be in wonderfully written scripts and films, but not necessarily that I'm supposed to be. So I believe the greater powers, and I deeply believe in it, fortunately. And I am very, very comfortable and joyous about my choices I make. And I don't regret the choices I make. Aapke muh mein ghee shakkar, if there are films which would be popular and yet a good film, and they seek me out, I will be there.
You have worked with legend Sridevi. Okay, she's very different personally, but when she comes on screen, she lights up the whole screen. So how was it working with her, and what are the things that you have noticed in terms of her acting capabilities? You guys made an amazing example of Indian couples, I would say.
Yeah,
Very
typical Indian
accurate.
couple,
Yeah.
male chauvinist Indian couple. Yeah. I think that Sridevi is most underutilized, underexplored actor in comparison to what she could have been, in what she could have delivered to the world audience. When I say world audience, I mean audience who watches films from across the globe, not only Indian diaspora abroad. There would be very few people who would know of Sridevi, maybe in Europe or in America, and I'm talking about Australia, apart from the Indians or Pakistanis or Hindi or Bengalis, from Bangladesh, yeah. So that is a pity, because I think she's at par with Meryl Streep, maybe more, if not less. But she, being in India, there is an advantage of being in a country enriched by amazing wisdom, which is we inherited from the ancient rishis and ancient texts. But the disadvantage is that films which are being made here, apart from the films probably which was before our time, which are amazing, and some films even in my time made by great masters like Tapan Sinha, Satyajit Ray, Mrinal Sen, and some other filmmakers, Gurudutt. Most of the films which are being made, I think the caliber of the films, they did not facilitate her potential. I would put it that way. If she was in, say, in Europe or in Hollywood for that matter, she would be celebrated as a global star by everybody, regardless of ethnicity and nationality. So that's how I would put him. And I'm one of the luckiest guys in India, definitely, and probably on the planet, because being my third film, that was my third film, that I was paired with her. And it became a cult film. And people are watching even now after 13 years. And people come up to me still and they haven't seen any other film of mine. I've done almost 100 films by now, but there was quite a lot of people who still remember me as Satish Godbole from English Vinglish, or as the guy who's a sort of a moron husband from English Vinglish. So that speaks a lot about the film, as Gauri Shinde written and directed it brilliantly, and Sridevi's performance. And that I had been also given a character by the director-writer without being biased towards me, that I was given equal opportunity to make people feel my presence.
शशि तुम अभी भी मुझसे प्यार करती हो?
नहीं करती तो तुम्हें 2 लड्डू क्यों खिलाती?
And Sridevi let that happen, because she was so respectful towards the story rather than trying to be the narcissist actor. Generally, quite often, quite a lot of stars I have heard stories about that they behave like.
Those are such beautiful presents that we have had in Indian cinema. And the good part about cinema is it's still there and we can still see them. Okay. That is the best part about cinema. And like you said, it still brings joy to watch English to each one in the country and beyond. It's like subcontinent and beyond as well.
I was in South Korea with a film in 2015 for the first time with a very, very art house film called Sunrise, directed by Parth Gupta. And I was in a bus going from my hotel to the cinema hall. Bus was the private facilitated by the film festival itself, not a public bus, but I was in a bus and there were a lot of young girls and they came up to me suddenly, "Oh, would like to take a photograph." I was like, which film have you seen? That was 2015. So I haven't done many films. I thought maybe Life of Pi, but I looked very different in Life of Pi with a mustache and people don't really recognize me. And they said, "Oh, Good Morning Manhattan." I haven't done such a film. Said, "No, you are the husband and then your wife wants to learn English." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So in Japan and South Korea, it was released as Good Morning Manhattan. So people from the East have seen that film because they resonate with the character being a non-English speaking country. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that.
That's an icon again. So you've acted in many different languages movies like Norwegian, French, English, Assamese, Hindi, Tamil. How do you emotionally enter languages that you didn't grow up with?
I think I had a knack for different accents and being a guy who had been interested and got fascinated by mimicry. Mimicry is that something that is very different from you and you try to sort of embody, with attitude and sounds which come out from your mouth that you shape and change according to the requirement of that particular imitation. So I had that knack since my childhood. And so speaking another language is not only speaking the words, but also the mode and the mood and the attitude that you catch, And so I had that from my childhood and I worked upon it as well. Also during my NSD days, I think I had an opportunity to also learn Hindi, as you have pointed out, that you could not make out where I was from because I practiced. The language is the consequence of so many complex things, different languages. There are thousands of languages in the world and they're so different. Like 12 kilometers from my hometown, Gwalpara, they speak a language that I don't understand a word, which is Garo or Rabha for that matter, and which is extremely disrespectful toward the language that I don't understand because I didn't even attempt to learn that language, being a neighboring language. But the necessity sort of forced me to dive deep into the reality behind the words which are spoken by another group of people in another part of the country rather than the words. Words are easy to learn. It's a drill. You just practice. But what is most difficult to capture is that where do those words come from? What is their emotional underlying foundation that I have to stand on in order to sound like them, not speak like them, but first sound like them, then articulate the sound with your tongue and the teeth and your lips to create the word which is passing on the information, but not the feeling unless you are exploring the mood and the mode and the underlying emotional being or, deeper psychological state. That fascinated me that, oh, I have to be in a certain way in order to sound like it and then come up with the words which will be understood by that group of people. Once you know the fundamental of it, it can be applied anywhere, like in terms of words, Norwegian. Thankfully, that I spent almost 3.5 years in the Netherlands. So Netherlands is a very different language, but quite a lot of words and sounds which are closer to Norwegian, being in the Arctic zone.
Right.
And as I said, from my own experience, I am very sensitive to sound and I listen well. That's one of the most fundamental technique of acting, that you have to first listen in order to absorb anything. The other thing probably is that the empathy that I must cultivate for any words, any sound, any language, or anybody, or anything, or any ideology, to have empathy for it. And then there is a possibility that the other will speak to you in a way that you can recreate.
It's like connecting words with emotions, and then all the words become the same when you connect it with emotions. So, Adil, please tell me, like, when you started so young. You actually, I feel it was a calling for you at a very young stage, and you followed that calling and gut without doubting it. You're like, I have to be an actor. I have to be on stage. I have to be there. Okay. What is something that you would like to do now going forward in terms of acting? And I'm talking about popular cinema and any directors that you would like to work with.
I would not name anybody. I would not, because for the simple reason, I would not like to manifest anything which is not meant for me, because I know the power of manifestation.
Yes.
And be aware what you wish for. You see, it has happened to me. I had wished for it, had come true, and I regretted it.
Not like it. True.
So I would say that let things happen which are meant for my growth and for the growth of the rest of the humanity and the universe. Let those things come to me. I will, with gratitude, I will accept it.
I feel that the conversation was so deep, and the thought process that you took it to was very, very deep, and I really liked it, very resonating. So thank you so much, Adil, for joining in.
I'm very happy to have spoken to you. I would say that, keep doing what you're doing. Let things happen to your podcast which are the best for everybody.